Hello, everyone. I'm Bo from Brutal Commentary, and today I'm going to be breaking down our next matchup for UFC 325. In this one, we have Cam Rowston taking on Cody Brundage. This is a matchup that pairs a rising, well-rounded Australian against a tough veteran with a heavy wrestling base. You have Rowston, who enters at 13-3, riding momentum and has shown good finishing variety. Meanwhile, you have Brundage, who comes in at 11-7-1, known for gritty wrestling and good power, but mixed results in the UFC level. I mean, you look at his last five, it's 1-2-1-1, one draw and one no contest. So a pretty mixed bag at the UFC level. On paper, this does kind of look like experience versus youth, and I mean that in the sense that Brundage has more more MMA fights than Rowston and more UFC fights. But in terms of age, they're actually both the same age at 31. But I think the way they fight might tell a bit of a different story. So, without further ado, let's get down to the breakdown. So, starting with Cam Rowston, he fights an orthodox stance at about 6'3" with a long reach at 75 inches and blends submission grappling with straight in a way few middleweights at his age can. Rowston lands about roughly 3.4 significant strikes per minute while only absorbing about 2.4 per minute, showing both activity and solid defensive awareness. And Rowston also has notable finishing variety: 5 knockouts and 7 submissions of his 13 wins. Excuse me. He, in his career, is a sign that Rowston's comfortable in multiple phases of combat. Plenty of his wins have come early, with 7 in first-round finishes on his resume. So I think that finishing ability does reflect Rowston's complete toolkit, as he uses striking to set up takedowns, and on the ground, Rowston is dangerous with chokes and submissions once he gets a dominant position. He also fights with balance, rarely overcommitting, and stays calm when opponents rush in. I mean, you look at his UFC debut against Andre Petrowski. As Petrowski was rushing in, Rowston was able to land a very sneaky check left hook, drop Petrowski, and then finish it off with ground and pound. So Rowston is pretty good at keeping his composure under this big fight pressure, more specifically when he made his debut in his home country. And now he gets to fight in his home country once more. Now, for Cody Brundage, he has more of a wrestling base. He's more of a wrestling base middleweight with who mixes in heavy hands with frequent takedown attempts. You look at it, of his 11 wins, 6 wins by KO and few submissions, but Brundage is far more known for grinding pressure and wrestling control than flashy finishes. Though you look at Brundage's UFC history, it's been pretty damn inconsistent. He's one big win, lost tight decisions, has a draw, has a no contest, but he hasn't consistently kept a high level of output across 3 rounds against well-rounded competition. And that inconsistency shows, as I said, he had split decisions, draws, and losses mixed with flashier wins. And while that's not inherently bad, it does suggest a style that can stall out when the opponent isn't content to just defend or react. And Brundage's approach tends to be straightforward pressure, wrestling entries, and power striking. But if those don't land cleanly, he often ends up in dead exchanges or scrambles where he doesn't always win the initiative. So for the contrast, you have Rowston, who blends offense and defense fluidly with high finishing variety, while Brundage leans on wrestling and pressure without a consistent plan B when things get technical. Now, looking at how these styles clash, starting with the pace and the rhythm, Rowston is pretty good at controlling range, as Rowston uses his long reach, long guard, and combination striking to keep opponents at uncomfortable distances. And that means when Brundage shoots for a takedown or tries to march forward with an overhand right, Rowston can either mix in strikings to discourage entries or reset the distance, hence to negate the advantage. And I think Rowston's activity rate, both strikes landed and grappling transitions, keep him ahead in rounds even when he's not finishing. Brundage is now for Brundage, his wrestling is respectable, but he doesn't overpower everyone on the ground. And against elite level wrestlers or big pressure grapplers, Rowston can scramble out of bad positions and make it competitive. And I think once the fight hits a scramble or neutral clinch, I think Rowston's submission awareness and positional control makes it less likely for Brundage to simply grind him into the fence or score easy control time. Then you look at the striking. Brundage offense is pretty straightforward. Jab, power shots, like I said, specifically the overhand right, and level changes to set up wrestling. But that kind of striking is easy to anticipate in time compared to Rowston's more layered offense. And when a fighter can not only land punches, but also frame them around takedowns and submissions, they force the opponent into content defensive decisions rather than just reactive defense. And I think Rowston's ability to blend threats forces Brundage to risk choosing between defending the hands or defending the takedown and not being able to focus on both. As it's always said, the takedowns lead to opportunities on the feet, while at the same time striking leads to opportunities for the wrestling. Another aspect of this fight here is also transition and ground control. I think that counts a lot here because Brundage has good pressure wrestling, but his effectiveness drops when opponents aren't passive in scrambles. Rowston has submission finishes, which means he doesn't just get taken down and wait. He's actively looking for attacks off his back or top position. And that kind of offensive wrestling, where you actively threaten submissions and positional advances, makes it harder for Brundage to execute his game plan without exposing himself. He's been caught in submissions before, and he's left himself open before, like against Adolfo Vieira. Now, I don't think Rowston's as good a submission artist, but that's just something to keep in mind. Finally, and then there's durability and decision control. Brundage has early finishes in his UFC record, but his UFC results show, like I said, inconsistency. He's lasting 3 full rounds at a high pace. Rowston's longer fights have often gone deep, but him still active, landing strikes and seeking opportunities, and exactly the kind of approach judges reward in close situations. So, in short, Rowston doesn't just match Brundage. I think he neutralizes Brundage's core strengths while adding more tools to his own. So, for my official prediction, I'm going to go with Cam Rowston. I think Cam Rowston is going to use his range and mix of striking and grappling to set the pace early. That means jabs and straights to control distance, followed by angled entries when Brundage commits forward. And while Brundage will try to get inside and leverage his wrestling, but I think Rowston's length, scrambles, and submissions threats makes easy control time difficult to sustain for Brundage. Plus, I think if the fight goes past the first round, I think Rowston's activity and varied offense will likely accumulate more meaningful strikes in transition than Brundage, who can be stalled when his pressure doesn't immediately lead to takedowns or damage. And the technical edge, range control, diverse offense, and just layered threats all stack in Rowston's favor. So, once again, I'm going to pick Cam Rowston to win this matchup, and I'm going to go with a knockout on this one. Brundage I wouldn't say has a glass chin per se. I mean, he has taken some big shots and come back, like against Julian Marquez. But I still think Rowston has really good accuracy with his striking. I think he can clip Brundage coming forward like he did with Petrowski, or even a club and sub. I can also see, he drops Brundage, Brundage's days, and then Rowston lashes up a submission of some kind, like a rear naked choke or something. I can also see that happening as well. So, once again, I'm going to pick Cam Rowston, and I'm going to pick him via knockout in this matchup. But with that being said, that has been my breakdown of this fight. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below on who you think is going to win. But until then, I've been Bo from Brutal Commentary. I thank you all for listening. And remember, stay calm, stay respectful, and enjoy the violence. I'll see you all next time.